Okay, now this is just a small variety of tools. The training that I had in Japan meant that I actually had to learn to make my own tools, and making porcelain is a particular medium where in Kyoto especially they use a lot of tools, and it really helps you to get a beautiful refined shape. Just as an example, we can hold this one up and you can get some idea of how fine it can be. So, you know, this is the beauty of porcelain. And to make a little bowl like this, I've made a set of tools that actually allow me to throw it and repeat the thing. This is called the tombo. It actually measures the depth and the width. You can see there's quite a bit of shrinkage involved. Porcelain shrinks up to 17%. And so you've always got to design your pieces 17% bigger to get them to shrink down to the size you want. Now you've got two main tools. This is the main throwing rib, which is called a header, and then there's the finishing off tool, which is finished down to a really fine edge. This is the edge that imparts the surface on the inside of the clay. And one is just slightly smaller than the other. If I put them together, you can see one is slightly smaller than the other. And this one here is to push the final bowl out into its finished shape. So most pieces that I make have a set of tools that go with them, and I'll often keep them with a sample. And there's one of my signatures. So I've got a high shelf with a whole lot of pieces on it, and I've got drawers full of boxes of bowls. Here's another bowl with traditional karaksa moyo in it. It's a traditional pattern that goes back over 1,000 years, originating in India, but it's used a lot in China and Japan still. So again, the tombo measure, and the way I attach these and use them, I have a bamboo knife with a hole in it, and it's just a little tap, and then I've got something that I can measure while on the wheel, and I can also use the pointy end for trimming and cleaning up. So that's the complete measure tool. And then I've got a series of ribs for actually throwing the inside of the bowl. It's the throwing tool. This is the equivalent of your fingers. It's about the thickness of your fingers. And this is the finishing tool. This is usually made in a fruit wood like pear, whereas this one is a lovely pine. It's a cypress pine, celery top pine in this case, I think. So there's a variety of different beautiful timbers you can use to make tools from. And this one's an example of like a Japanese teacup. I've got my turning measures for later, and again there's a set of tools for the cup. There's the measure for the depth and the width, and the two different throwing tools, the kote and the header. Here's a larger bowl. There are two different types of finishing off tools that are used. This is more Chinese style, where you hold it up and you actually bring the shape in this way, whereas the Japanese tend to use one of these and do it on the side. So this is a large donburi bowl for eating noodles, and I've got the measure again for the depth and the width. This one is for a taller bowl, a deeper bowl, so you can use the same tools for different sizes if you have different finishes. I've got the tall one and I've got a smaller one, but they're the same profile. This one's a very useful rib for throwing on the inside of bowls as well. It actually used to be a spoon and it's had the handle cut off. They use this style of throwing rib for larger bowls in Kyoto. It's a rather useful sort of tool. The other sort of shapes that are used for larger bowls, you can make a variety of different throwing ribs for larger bowls. So there's, a deeper bowl and a shallower bowl. And for really big bowls, these are just a bit of pine. There's a bit of Australian wood there. But that's the center of your bowl, and this gives you the radius. So you can throw quite large pieces with these sort of throwing ribs. This one's again it's called a dango. It's a very versatile throwing rib for the inside of a pot. This one's been made from Oregon pine, and you can see the beautiful grain that's just been worn beautifully by years of use on the wheel. You don't ever need to polish these up, you just allow the wheel and the clay to do the polishing for you. This one's a very useful and important tool for cleaning up on the wheel head and also on the sides of pots. It's a very versatile wooden tool. Then you've got a variety of throwing ribs here. The Japanese style of making is always throwing to the inside shape. These are for bottles and sometimes larger ones for teapots. This is also for a long-necked bottle, so that you can get a throwing rib inside and throw a bottle without having to get your arm down inside. So as I design a piece and come up with a new idea, I make a new set of tools for it. This is a beautiful bit of pear wood, and it's got very fine teeth cut in it. This is for putting the grinding marks in the inside of a bowl for grinding sesame seed, but it's great for putting pattern on the outside of pots as well. So I've got a wide variety of tools. We'd be here all day if I was to show you all my tools. Every time I make a new piece, I make a set of tools, and then you've got them for a lifetime. If you have a customer who comes back and wants something made again 20 years later, and I've had this happen, you can go back, find your set of tools and remake the work for them. So it's a very good cataloguing system, and you end up with a whole series of really beautifully made tools.